Picture this. It's 6:30 in the morning. You're rushing out the door. You grab your protein bar off the counter, your flavored sparkling water from the fridge, and you drop a 0-calorie sweetener packet into your coffee. They're all 0 calories, 0 sugar. You feel good about that choice. You think you made the right decision here. Here's what I want you to think about. That protein bar, the sparkling water, that little colored packet, pink, yellow, white, whatever color they make them, blue. There's a real chance all three of them contain something that a growing body of research says may be working against your health goals, your body weight goals that you're trying to reach. And the scientific community has not fully agreed on what to do about it. It's exactly what we're going to be getting into today. Welcome back to Driven for Health. This is podcast episode 99. Yes, 99 episodes with Coach Brian Parana. I hope that you've been enjoying these. They have been informative. I really put a lot of effort into them, and we just keep growing, keep doing them to educate you to make better informed decisions. A lot of my guys, they're super busy in the morning. Even me, I get up and I have to take my kids to school. Right there's 30 minutes driving plus the 25 minutes to get them ready. And you see 60, 70 minutes are taken up through just getting my morning routine going for my 4 kids. Now, I only take 2 of them to school these days. The other 2, my oldest drives Levi. He's got his license at 16 now, which is super helpful. But a lot of guys are in the same situation. They're busy doing all this stuff. And a lot of research and conversations that I have with men that are serious about their health want to make sure that they're making the right choices for themselves, especially if they are doing so much in a way that is toward eating healthier, moving their body more, things like that. The topic today is artificial sweeteners, and we're just going to get straight to the point. I'm not trying to scare you or anything. I'm just trying to make you more informed. And I'm not going to tell you that one Diet Coke is going to kill you or give you cancer or something like that. What I'm going to give you is a full picture, the good, the complicated, and the stuff you generally need to know if you're over 40, managing your weight goals, and you're watching your blood sugar if you're a diabetic, or your cholesterol and things like this, so that you can stay on your toes, stay alive. Let's get to it. Let's talk about where this all started, because the story goes back over 140 years ago. Started with a guy who forgot to wash his hands. Yeah, kind of gross, right? But in 1879, a chemist named Constantine Thalberg is working in a lab at Johns Hopkins University. He's studying coal tar derivatives. Real exciting, right? It's got nothing to do with food, nothing to do with sweetness at all. One afternoon, he leaves the lab, sits down for lunch, picks up a piece of bread and takes a bite, and something's off. It tastes overwhelmingly sweet, and it shouldn't. So he ran back into his lab. He tested every beaker on the bench until he found a compound responsible. So he broke it down into multiple different things to find what is making this sweet. And it was saccharin. That little pink packet you've seen on every diner table in America for the past 100 years came from a guy who didn't wash his hands before lunch. Well, it gets stranger. The same kind of accident happened in 1965. A chemist named James Schlatter was working on an anti-ulcer drug. Nothing to do with sweetness or food. He licked his finger while turning a page on his notes. He tasted something intense, that sweetness, and that compound became aspartame. The blue packets found on thousands of diner tables, products that you buy every week. In 1976, a researcher was told by his superior to test chlorinated sugar compound. He misheard it. He thought his supervisor said to taste it, not test it. So he did, and that compound turned into 600 times sweeter than sugar. That is sucralose, the yellow packet Splenda. That stuff, it's in your protein powder, it's in your diet soda or pop, it's in low-calorie beverages. Every major artificial sweetener in circulation today came from a lab accident, not in the kitchen. Now, it wasn't a health initiative to save calories, and it wasn't from someone trying to lose weight. They were just all accidents. And then they got commercialized, scaled up in a massive direction, and put roughly into 60% of packaged foods Americans buy every week. Yeah, 60%. The global market for these sugars and sweeteners sits at around 9.3 billion right now in 2026 and can be projected to hit 13.7 billion in the next decade. And this isn't a niche ingredient hiding in diet soda. It's in every single aisle of your grocery store. Hence why we always say shop the outside, not the inside. Question is, are they safe? The honest answer always comes back to it depends, right? No, that's the best answer, right? It depends. It always depends. What does it depend on? Well, it depends on who you ask and what time frame you are looking for. The FDA has approved 6 artificial sweeteners: saccharin, aspartame, asaforamine K, sucralose, neotame, and avantame. These reviewed they passed research. There's daily limits on them. Concluded that normal consumption of these are safe. Here's a number to help put you all this stuff into context. The FDA's daily limit for aspartame is 50 milligrams per kilogram of body weight. What does that mean? Well, a 180-pound man, you would have to drink something like 18 to 19 cans of diet soda every single day to reach that limit. That's just not realistic for most people, right? 1 or 2 is what most people do, or a big gulp, as we would call them in our house. Sometimes that's what they are referred to. The Polar Pop from Circle K, all right? But here's where some challenges can start coming in. The World Health Organization put out a formal advisory telling people not to use non-sugar sweeteners for long-term weight control. Their concern had nothing to do about drinking a can here or there. The concern was years of daily use and what this pattern does to cardiovascular health, blood sugar regulation, and your risk of developing type 2 diabetes or other diseases that potentially are associated with it. 2 credible institutions, same substance, different conclusions. The FDA says that you're okay with the daily dose. The WHO, the World Health Organization, says the long-term concerns are something they want to pay attention to. Now, for guys in their 40s and 50s who've already working through health issues or elevated blood sugars, extra weights, cardiovascular risk going up, that gap kind of matters. And we have to make sure that we go deeper to address some of the myths around this as well. And I really want to make sure I pointed some of this out to you, because there's lots of bad information circulating out in all of this. And that's one reason why I'm here at 99 episodes on Driven for Health. And I hope that these are safe. This is a safe place for you to listen in to get high quality information to apply for you. Myth number 1. Myth number 1. Artificial sweeteners cause cancer. Well, good news here. The National Cancer Institute and the FDA both state clearly there's no consistent evidence linking artificial sweeteners to cancer in humans. You probably heard about studies on rats. Those studies are legitimate and they're real, but the dose given to those animals were far beyond anything a human could ever consume in a given lifetime. And that comparison just doesn't hold up into real human life. On cancer specifically, based on current evidence in humans, this fear is not well supported by science. The dosage always matters. Having a little bit can be okay or in moderation, but if literally everything that you're always eating all day long is coming from a packaged container, isn't a whole food, isn't a lean protein, isn't a vegetable, any of this stuff, what are we doing? We got to just step back from that in and of itself. Guys come into the program and often think, oh, I'll just start having protein shakes and protein bars. Well, I never tell anyone to do that. Yes, we do want to have protein. One or two protein supplements or servings in a day could make sense to add to make it more fun, more enjoyable, but you can get adequate, plenty amounts from meat based proteins, plant based proteins, dairy based proteins to help meet your actual needs. Myth two, artificial sweeteners are a free pass when it comes to weight loss. This is what gets sold to an entire generation. I literally right here, even our parents' generation has been getting told that. The Diet Coke generation, the Coke Zero is what our generation is. The logic sounds pretty simple. 0 calories, 0 impact on your body. Swap the Coke for Diet Coke and the weight comes off. Well, in 2025, researchers at USC ran a brain imaging study. They found that sucralose, main ingredients, Splenda, increased blood flow to the hunger center of the brain by roughly 17% more than regular sugar did. So the thing that you switch to cause it supposed to help, but you're eating less is sending stronger hunger signals to your brain than regular sugar does. This matters for you if you've been wondering whether diet drinks aren't helping you move the scale. Now, also, there are studies out there that state that sweetened beverages versus non artificially sweetened beverages, so calorie sweetened beverages like sugar, Coke versus non Coke, the caloric impact alone is going to have a dramatic impact on potential scale weight moving down, right? Think of it. If you have 150 calories in a can of Coke times two, that's 300 calories of liquid sugar, liquid gold. That would be equal 40 grams of sugar in a can. That's 80. That is by far way more sugar than you should be having in a single day. Myth three, artificial sweeteners don't affect blood sugar. This one is important, especially if you are focused on chronic illness like diabetes. A study published in the journal Nature. This research has been out since 2014, has been replicated and built upon many times. It shows that saccharin and sucralose and aspartame can drive glucose intolerance by disrupting the bacterial balance in your gut. So we can have some gut biome issues going on, all the little microbiome living inside there. The researchers confirmed this on healthy human subjects, not just lab animals. Real people with no prior metabolic issues showed measurable changes in their glucose response. So this is after they consumed the sweeteners. Your blood sugar can be affected by something that contains 0 grams of sugar if you've been using artificial sweeteners as part of a diabetic maintenance approach or management in there for your blood sugars, and the numbers aren't moving in the right direction. It's worth taking a serious look at. If you have diabetes, we need to be very conscious around sweetened anything. You should have sweetened, maybe at the most, the fruit. Use that as your sweetener. But oftentimes, fruit isn't sweet enough because of so much sweetening happening in our daily food supply. All right, everyone wants something sweet after dinner, and that's been ingrained in us for 100 years. Myth number 4. If the label says natural, the product is, in quotations, clean. Stevia, monk fruit are generally better options, and we'll talk about those in a few minutes. But many stevia and monk fruit products at the store shelves have been processed and blended with erythritol and other fillers. The word natural on the food label is one of the least regulated in the entire food industry. So natural doesn't mean much. It's just a fancy word. Usually, the more words or language or colorful, shimmery, shiny things on a package, the more it potentially can be misleading. Reading a nutrition label is a non-negotiable in type of these situations. And even in my program, I want guys looking at nutrition labels and understanding what is actually in the food they're eating. Let's look at the long game, the long approach here. The studies that track people for years tell a different story than the short-term trials obviously don't show. Well, a French research project called Nutrinet Santé cohort followed over 100,000 adults for 9 years. The people with the highest consumption of aspartame and asulfamine K had between 9 and 18% higher risk of cardiovascular disease compared to people who weren't consuming them. A 2024 review published on PubMed confirmed that saccharin and sucralose were specifically tied to gut disruptions, irritations, glucose intolerance, and inflammation across longer study periods. And here's the thing is that we get more data every single year that we get older, of course. And when you're paying attention to this over long term, and the dosage matters, if you're just constantly chronically having these substances, you could have some issues with them as opposed to just having one here or there. Here's one more finding worth noting. A 2025 observational study picked up by CNN found that people consuming the most low and no calorie sweeteners showed 62% faster rate of cognitive decline, meaning that dementia or a lack of being able to focus and be productive. This is a challenge, right? Now, this is an observational study, which means it tracks patterns in populations, but can't prove direct cause or effect on its own. But at a 60% difference in cognitive decline rates across a large population, we have to pay attention a little bit here. On that point, I want to give you a little bit more of a balanced picture here. Researcher Mino Henselman published in 2019 a review where he argues that many of the negative findings in sweetener research are driven by reverse causality. People who are already metabolically unwell tend to start using more sweeteners because they're trying to manage their condition, not because the sweeteners made them sick. Very important to pay attention to there. His review suggests that studies account for that bias and the negative associations to it can start to shrink. Having that type of context there can matter. And if someone is in an unhealthy state and they start using these, there's still potentially be more of a direct correlation with the illness that they have, the chronic disease, the type 2 diabetes, the obesity, the overweight, high cholesterol, blood pressure, all those things from years of poor nutritional behavior, poor food habits. Now let's look at what the research says when you put sugary drinks and artificial sweetened drinks side by side. Researchers tracked nearly 1,800 people across 6 separate studies. So it's a massive study, and found that people who replaced regular sodas and sugary drinks with artificial sweetened ones, their BMI dropped by a small but measurable amount in the short term. That's what I was mentioning earlier. that there are studies that show that you can lose weight by doing the alternative of a 0 calorie versus a regular calorie one. And in my world, coaching guys, I would totally have them go to a 0 calorie sweetened beverage over having the regular version. Especially if you're drinking multiple regular sodas a day, switching to a diet one can save you hundreds of calories and 40, 80, 120 grams of sugar for the love. That's a diabetes in a can. When researchers followed people over long periods of time, the story changed, though. And over time, the people who habitually consumed artificially sweetened beverages showed that type 2 diabetes risk levels compared to people who still drink regular stuff could be different. And so the short term benefit, if you are hooked and consistently on it, can start turning into a long term risk if you are not careful. Again, we have moderation, balance, and flexibility in every choice that you do is important. Even the American Diabetes Association acknowledges that these sweeteners can reduce calorie intake and help blood sugar control in the short term. So the Diabetes Association is on board with this. But their guidance is clear that this works best as a temporary bridge toward a bigger, broader, more important change in the dietary food choices that they make, and not as a long-term permanent strategy. Changing Coke for Diet Coke or Coke Zero, that's my preferred one. That's a step, but we never have to just all of a sudden we're drinking more Diet Coke or Coke Zero than water. That becomes a problem. And then even think about that. Oh, I have my Diet Coke, and then I have some sort of a artificially sweetened Mio drop thing in my water, and I do that to help me drink more water. And all of a sudden, you're still dosing yourself with this all the time, and it's important to pay attention to. Here's a part of this episode that most health content skips entirely, and I think it's important, and it's the piece that explains why a lot of men are doing most of the right things and are still not seeing the results that they want for the effort that they're doing. It's in your gut. Here's how to picture it. Deep in your gut, there are trillions of bacteria. Some of the bacteria produce a compound called butyrate, and butyrate keeps your gut lining healthy and helps your cells stay responsive to insulin and all sorts of different things. The gut microbiome have a handle on them. We'll go into that in another episode more on that. But when your body produces enough butyrate, your blood sugar handling it works a lot better. It can manage blood sugar levels more easily. And when the butyrate production drops, insulin resistance tends to go up. Okay, so having healthy gut lining, you are sensitive to insulin and your body works like it should, which is important. The Nature study I mentioned earlier showed that saccharin, sucralose, and aspartame reduce butyrate production by disrupting the bacterial balance. This is confirmed in healthy human subjects. And for a man managing prediabetes or type 2 diabetes, this is very important because anything that's working against your insulin sensitivity and working toward insulin resistance keeps you in the disease longer, and it makes it substantially harder to reverse it as well. It's a specific process that can happen in your gut every time you consume these sugars, artificially sweetened sweeteners in beverages that are labeled 0 sugar. Furthermore, a 2025 review published in PubMed described artificial sweeteners as a double-edged sword for your gut microbiome. It's helpful at reducing calories and keeping you in a calorie deficit, but it can be harmful with the bacterial diversity and the challenges of being able to support your metabolism if the diversity and the cultures in your gut microbiome drop down. This will cause energy to start suffering, your immune function weaken, and your blood sugar regulation gets Obviously, harder managing if you're dealing with blood sugar issues. I've had men inside my Call to Rise group pull their continuous blood glucose monitor data after 2 weeks of cutting artificial sweeteners and watching their morning fasted glucose, their blood sugar levels drop 10 to 15 points without doing anything else. Same with meals, same workouts, same sleep. They just removed the sweeteners here. And that was the result that showed up with consistency across the time. And this is something to address. If someone is managing their blood sugar levels, we need to pay attention to this. Dr. Mark Hyman has been making the case for this for years. He argues that artificial sweeteners trick the brain into ramping up insulin production while slowing metabolism, which leaves you hungrier and cravings for more carbs and sugar. Dr. Casey Means, who also co founded Levels Health, has analyzed over 51 million data points on human glucose response and how your body responds to sugar in the blood sugar. Makes the same case from the data side. This is important. Foods that don't directly spike your blood sugar can still drive insulin resistance through these gut pathways. Zero on the glycemic index does not mean a zero biological impact. So it can be good for help managing overall calories, but it can be potentially bad for managing gut biome. And again, you as an adult have to make the right choice on how much of these things that you consume. So, what are some real alternatives? Because ending up with the problem and no solution is, we need to figure out a thing. We don't need to cut it entirely. We don't need to eat everything there as well. Not all sweeteners work the same in your body. Two worth mentioning are stevia and monk fruit. Both are 0 calorie, both carry GRAS status from the FDA, meaning they're generally recognized as safe. Both are minimally direct impact on blood sugar levels compared to synthetic options. Neither show the gut disrupting patterns like aspartame or sucralose in current research. Neither has shown the brain based hunger signals that we find from sucralose shown in the USC 2025 study. Monk fruit in particular showed no blood sugar impact in clinical crossover studies and shows early signs of supporting gut health rather than disrupting it. No significant reported side effects in the current literature either. When a man in my program asks what to put in his coffee, monk fruit, stevia are at the top of the list, or again, kind of leaning into what are they putting in now, understanding how many calories are. Can we make a healthier alternative? Say, instead of creamer, can we do a protein shake in a sense? And again, I know that we're going back into the risk of these sucralose and everything, but if this helps someone help drop 20 pounds, 40 pounds, and get their blood panels back into a normal range, that's something in the interim that we have to pay attention to make an exception to this, to get them in a healthier frame of reference, just like taking someone off of, excuse me, multiple cans of Coke to Diet Coke or Coke Zero can help them lose weight, which can inherently help them be healthier over the long term. This is important. You just have to make sure that we're conscious, you're making good decisions, and you're checking the label and understanding what you're doing. Stevia is a solid option. Sometimes people can experience digestive discomfort on higher doses. Either one is more meaningful than the synthetic options. Here's what I want you to do this week. We have four specific things. One, I want you to read labels. Look for aspartame, sucralose, saccharin. They show up in protein bars, sparkling waters, yogurts, vitamins, medications. You will be surprised where you find them. Number two, let's run a transition period, a protocol. 1 week, swap diet sodas and artificially sweetened drinks for with sparkling water with fresh lemon, lime, orange, real citrus, not flavor drops. Week 2, swap the coffee sweeteners for monk fruit. Week 3, clear out the packaged diet snacks. Anything in a package is something you should not be eating, and definitely not giving your kids. And the ones marked as zero sugar are loaded with sucralose and there's so much things going on in these. It's just not healthy. An apple sauce in a package is not an apple in a sense. Third, track your glucose. If you are managing type 2 diabetes or prediabetes or continuous glucose monitor or a daily fasting glucose log, you will want to pay attention to whether the artificial sweetener products are affecting your numbers or not. The data will tell you, and not every guy is the same. Some it will affect more than others. And the fourth is reduce your overall sweetness of your diet over time. The WHO advisor, Francisco Branca, recommend reducing total sweeteners of your entire diet, not just swapping one sweet thing for another. Your taste receptors will change. I have a vivid memory of probably 15 years ago when someone said, "Hey, Brian, sweet potatoes are actually sweet." Yes, hence the name. And when they stop overdoing sugar, then you can actually taste what food is. Fruit should be the sweetener in your life, not all this other stuff to make it artificial. All right. This is as your baseline sweetness changes and exposure to it, the cravings for sweet foods will follow. All right. It's a physiological process. It's got nothing to do with willpower. It's just literally you're working your taste buds down. And in that sweetness, you're getting it back to a more normal way. Cutting out artificial sweeteners for the next 2 weeks. This is the challenge that I'd love for you to do. If you're listening in, 2 weeks, cut out all artificial sweeteners. Every diet soda, every zero sugar bar, Splenda, replace them with water or monk fruit or nothing. 2 weeks, let's see how things change for you, how your energy changes, cravings change. Again, if you're monitoring fasted blood glucose levels, I'd love to hear from you. You could send me an email, brian@brianparana.com. You can hit me up on @CoachBrian on Instagram and all the other socials. And the guys who do this report that they actually feel better, that there's a noticeable difference. And that's really important, is what we're trying to create anyways, is a real difference in your health and your body. Now, if there's a number of things that we can do from here. Number one, I have Improve Your Blood Panel Scorecard. It is got a really easy to understand way to read your blood panels and how to assess them. And also a 3-day easy meal plan reset that you can implement. And there's recipes, there's all sorts of different things to make it blatantly easy for you to do this. I went to a very great length to make it very easy to understand, explained it very simply, and give you a significant amount of opportunity to understand what to do and recipes and different things. So there's that. You can find that in the show notes. Number 2 is a private lab review. If you have your lab numbers, you're not sure what to do, and you didn't really get great advice from your doctor, then you can have a private conversation with me. There's a link in the show notes for my calendar that you can click on to schedule a 15-minute call. All you have to do is send me your blood panels, and then we'll have a call. You'll walk away with a very clear understanding of what to do for your specific situation. And 3, if you really want a lot of help and actually a actual transformation, an actual plan, that's what the Call to Rise is. It's a 100-day fat loss challenge and really improve your health challenge. The goal for men who are overweight, lose 20 plus pounds. I regularly get updates all week long of guys making progress in their scale, their energy, their confidence, their body composition, their strength at the gym, all these things, their productivity at work. These are real things that I do in the Call to Rise. And we have the 5 pillars. Changing your identity is number 1. You do not want to be identified as a type 2 diabetic or an overweight guy. You want to be seen as a strong provider type. Number 2 is the forge. It's the exercise, the activity, the moving piece will get you squared away with effective, efficient workouts and not spending all day in the gym. Number 3 is the fuel. This is nutrition. Simply put, eating the right foods at the right times in the right amounts and allowing you to understand how to pick the food and combine it in a way that fuels fat loss and fuels energy for you to be really successful. Number 4 is the code of your mindset. You're going to think differently about how it comes to take care of yourself. It's going to be easier, more convenient for you to take care of yourself, even if you're busy or have a lot going on in your life, because I literally change it for you. Then we've got the 5th pillar is the brotherhood. This is where you come together. You have support from me. You have support from other guys that are literally dealing with the same situations you are. They're overwhelmed with full-time jobs, careers, businesses, and family. And they have to juggle all the things. And therefore, I can help and they can help motivate and inspire and get you doing the things that you know you should be doing, because that's what you're not doing right now. That's at thecalltorise.com. You check that out. And the website is very explicit on answering a lot of questions about what's going on. I want to leave you with one thing carrying out this episode. 0 calories does not mean 0 consequences. Take that to heart, read every nutrition label, and make a wise decision for what best serves you. That's this episode for Driven for Health. Thanks so much.